this will be fine because we're going to do a little bit of breaking the ice. So I will go first, but I'm going to ask you to unmute and share a little bit about yourself because this is going to be, I think, a pretty intimate meeting, which is kind of perfect. So my name is Kamran. I am based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I used to work in corporate America and I quit. And now I run a solo business where I help developer companies outshine their competitors with differentiated content, strategy, and education. And I try to work with community educators and create expert led content. So I help with marketing and sales, sort of depends on what the needs are. For fun, I like to build games on the side. So I'm an amateur game designer. I like to work on my house. I'm building an office in the backyard. I do some open source, help maintain a game engine with a friend. And our family loves to travel. In the summer, we are going to Germany and Strasbourg in France. And I enjoy cooking at home. So my dad is Pakistani. And so I do some Pakistani cooking at home. And so we enjoy doing that. I also have a prompt here, which is what was the best food experience you've ever had and why? So my best food experience was probably when my wife and I lived in France. We lived in a small town called Aix-en-Provence. That was before we had kids. And there was an Italian restaurant, and the lasagna that I had there was unbelievable. It was so good. But it was more than that too. It was just the environment. It was like sort of underground, had sort of archways and stonework, and I don't know. It was just kind of surreal being there. Well, and we took 6 months. We lived abroad. That entire sabbatical was very memorable. But I think that's what stands out for me. So I think I'll just go through the list. But is it Sep? Would you mind unmuting and introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Nice meeting you here.
Yeah,
Sorry,
nice
like
to meet
I
you.
have a little bit of cold, so like maybe
No, no problem.
you're lucky that you're not gonna catch it over the Zoom, right? So my name is Seb Alamuti. I'm mostly in Vancouver, Canada, but actually right now I'm in Oakland, California. There's a developer week event here, right? So I'm gonna be attending this one like this afternoon. I'm the director of developer relations and academy at a software company called Mimic.
Okay.
We basically mimicking cloud server capabilities to device level. What I do for fun, I love to work out, like travel, right? So if I have time, I try to see if I can combine these two together, right? I love to travel, go to new places, right? Just go maybe hiking or just mountain biking, right? Whatever I can, I would do that. My best food experience it was when I was in Southeast Asia, mostly Thailand, and experiencing the street foods, right? And the whole culture around that, for me, that was amazing, right? It was an eye opener, how important food is in some cultures, right? Compared
Mm,
to others, right?
yeah.
For me, was like when I go there, usually people want to greet you. They don't say, "How are you?" They say, "Have you eaten?" Right? And I was always waiting for them to feed me, but it was just greeting, right? They don't say, "How you doing?" They say, "Have you eaten?" Right? So
Nice. Uh-huh.
I had to learn very quickly, okay, that's very important as part of the culture. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. It was very similar to me. I lived in Pakistan for about a year, and it's very much like eating is part of the culture, part of the family tradition. Eat around. They don't have
Amazing.
no tables, but shared plates and stuff like that. That was the first type of experience I had with that when I was a kid. So it was fun.
Yeah, like I'm originally from Iran. We had very similar experiences, I
Hmm.
believe.
Hmm. Is it Shruti?
That's right. That's me.
Okay, perfect. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. So yeah, I'm Shruti. I live in Berlin, Germany. So which is why when you said you're traveling here, so yeah, let me know if Berlin is in your list.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we can definitely catch
We're gonna
up.
fly in. We're gonna fly into Berlin. Yes.
Perfect. Then we have an invitation for Berlin's best brewery.
Ooh,
Yeah, I can take you there.
perfect. That's exactly the type of thing that we want to do.
Awesome. So yeah, so I live in Berlin and I work as a developer advocate. Basically, I'm the only person in developer relations. We are a really small startup, so I'm doing content-led marketing. I'm doing developer marketing, making a lot of content. And the company I work for is called Restack. And what we're making is essentially a control plane to deploy sort of open source tools and entire data pipeline in Kubernetes.
Okay, cool.
So that's what we're doing, and yeah, we're super new, so we're still sort of in the process of building up different features of the tool itself, of the product itself. So it's exciting.
Very nice.
And yeah, and what I do for fun is I think it's the usual. So I think one of the bigger reasons I moved to Berlin was so that I could get access like to travel. So every free time I get, I like to travel. I've been traveling a lot since the last 5 years. I mean, not excluding the pandemic, of course,
Mhm.
but yeah, I love to travel. I love to cook. I love to eat, and so that takes me to the culinary experience, right? So I'm Indian originally, so I've had a lot of good food, and I also know like Indian and Pakistani is a very similar food, like if not
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
same. So I've had, I think I live to eat at this point. But if I have to say like a recent experience, this was at a pop-up store or a pop-up shop in Berlin. It was like a pop-up at the middle of the park. And it was this all exclusive, only marketed through Instagram, that sort of like a really fancy, like we got a table at 9 p.m.
Oh, nice.
That
Nice.
sort of a place, but their food was dreamy. Like they had this one truffle pasta with one of those serrated ribbon pastas, all
Mhm.
handmade. It was, oh my god, it was the best one I've had so far. So that definitely is the one to beat.
That's wonderful. I love that. Um, Lila, I don't know if you are comfortable unmuting yourself and introducing, but thanks for joining. It looks like you're not joined to audio, so you might not be able to or in a position to unmute. That's totally fine. So it looks like we've got a small group today, which is fine. That's actually how I designed this this little session. So there's going to be some discussions, and I think it'll be kind of fun. So one of the things I wanted to start with here, let's see, is the first kind of activity. So if you have a pen and paper, you could use that. If you want to use Notepad or you want to use Google Docs or something just at hand. I'm very curious to know. Oh, Lila, is it Layla?
Yeah, it is later. Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, do you want to introduce yourself really quick before I get started?
Yeah. I'm the VP of marketing for a company called Undo, and we do time travel debugging software for developers.
Ooh, very nice.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to put myself on mute, and I'll just listen in the background whilst I'm busy doing something else.
Okay. There is going to be activities and discussions. But if you can't participate, that's fine. You can listen.
Yeah.
So we'll get started. So the first little thing I want to sort of understand is, and you can put this in the chat if you'd like to, but I'm going to give you like a minute, and I'm going to do it myself, to list out what you hope to learn in 2023, and that could be personally or professionally. And I'll give you one example to get the ball rolling. My wife and I want to learn how to hunt, so I'm going to put that on my list. But I'm going to set a little timer for about a minute or two. And like I said, if you want to do this in Notepad or Google Docs, or just put it in the Zoom chat, you could type it up in the chat and then post it. we're gonna dive into it just a little bit, okay? So I'm gonna put myself on mute so you don't like hear me breathing. Ah, perfect. Okay. I was gonna just ask if anyone didn't have anything yet, but it looks like you've got it. And this is great. So I'm going to share it to, because this is recorded, so I want to make sure that I share it out loud as well. But for my list, I think personally, I put learning to hunt, sort of like I said. And then is it actually, is this working? Hold on. Were you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
I can.
okay. Good. Just want to make sure because I'm not seeing the microphone in Zoom, move. So ugh. Okay. So anyway, personally, um I would like to learn to hunt, and hopefully we can do that this summer. Also, just getting to be a better parent. So I have 3 kids. And so one of the things in 2023, me and my wife are actively actually taking some like self-paced courses and workshops to get better at parenting. So that's one thing that we hope to get better at in 2023. Professionally, because I have an application development background, and now that I run my own business, I would like to get better at sales and marketing. So I'm trying to learn more about that. I work a lot with clients who do distributed computing. And so I'm trying to get better myself at microservice architecture, distributed application architecture, so I can better understand how those products fit in. And I'd also like to get better at podcasting because I'm sort of new to that too. So personally and professionally, that's sort of what I want to learn. A couple of things that people mention professionally, learning more about content first marketing, growth strategies, getting certificates in data science and growth product marketing. And personally, getting a driver's license for where you live, learning how to play golf. So those are all awesome things. So and you've already sort of shared what the top thing I think that you want to learn. And if this was, and it looks like most people put about 1 or 2 things kind of in each category. So about 4 things. And I put down 5 things. And so that's how many we put down. Would anyone be willing to share, as they were looking at their list or as they're thinking about this list, how looking at that list makes you feel? And I'll go first. I would say I'm kind of excited, but also intimidated from the types of things that I want to learn, because I've never hunted before, and so that's sort of intimidating. And I do have like I've worked or I've used guns before, so and I actually have gotten certified in like being able to handle firearms, but it's still like I'm sort of like intimidated by it. Does anyone have any initial feelings that are rising to the surface? Nervous. Okay, nervous. Any other feelings? Yeah, I think okay. So you mentioned time management. Is that like anxiety about how much time you can spend, or like worried about time management?
Yeah, usually like, I start like, okay, planning everything and based on work and personally, like things change, right? So how to make sure that, you can proceed, right? And
Yes.
complete all these goals. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so some of the feelings that I wrote down for the benefit of those watching: excited, nervous, feeling some anxiety, feel like I don't have enough time. Okay. So, and you've already, since you've already put it in the chat, I already know that every single person who put their professional stuff in the chat has to do with technology, data science, marketing or content first marketing and growth. There's something to do with your professional skills and the product that you're working on, technology. Okay. So I was wondering if any of these fell into the 2023 technology buzzwords. And I saw data science, which maybe falls into artificial intelligence. I would be curious to know if any of these types of trends seem like something that you want to learn in 2023. Because now that I actually look at this list, AI and ML, and I already said distributed cloud, distributed applications, so that was on my list. But AI and ML is definitely something that I want to learn more about. And these are just the top trends. But imagine how the developers in your community are feeling about all these different technologies that are on the horizon. And I stole this quote from the new stack. I was searching for what are the specific like front end skills that people are trying to learn in 2023, because as soon as you go down this rabbit hole of whatever niche that your product operates in, if it's DevOps, front end, back end, databases, etc., there's this like huge amount of stuff that developers need to learn to get better at their jobs. And what's funny is like this quote, just like list all the different skills that people are supposed to learn. If you want to do front end, you have to learn about networking and DevOps and automation and testing and programming concepts, security, SEO, user experience design, software architecture, performance optimization, asset optimization, analytics. It's like, oh my God, that the feelings that you just put into the chat, or that you mentioned out loud, excited, nervous, anxiety, don't have enough time, those are all the feelings that your developer community is feeling at this moment right now when they look at what they have to learn for their job and what's coming up on the horizon. Okay, this brings us to what is developer education? And I'm going to share sort of my viewpoint and my definition of what DevEd is. But for me, let's see, developer education, the way that I define it, is sort of any learning experience that's targeted to technology professionals. So developers learn from all sorts of different types of activities that we do. And you don't think about it at first, because I think if I asked you to put it into chat what you think DevEd means, you'd probably say documentation or courses. But really, developers learn from all the different types of activities and content that we put out. They learn from documentation, self-paced courses, instructor-led training, which could include workshops or in-classroom. They learn from code samples and showcases and tours and technical content, which includes articles, videos, blogs. They learn from things like this, like webinars. They learn from conference talks. They learn from the use cases on your website. They learn from the landing pages on your website. They learn from the ebooks that you put out, or the white papers and the live streams that you do. I don't even have live events on here, but that's also something. Newsletters, podcasts, roadmaps, sandboxes, virtual labs. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is as much as I could probably fit onto the slide. But that brings us to like how would I define higher DevEd? Because that's what I want to focus on right now. Well, I would say higher DevEd would be more of the instructor-led training and self-paced courses or live training that would be housed inside of like a developer academy, a developer university, or sometimes they call them learning management systems or learning experience platforms. But the purpose is there's a few different ways that they fit in. One is certifications. So getting mastery over the product and then getting certified for it. This would be like MongoDB getting certified. And that can be monetized. So Optimizely has certifications that people pay for to get certified in Optimizely. That's one example. They're also used for upskilling and gaining mastery. They're gaining mastery over the product. So when someone gets to the stage where they are proficient in your product, then they want to upskill and get mastery. This is where you will see a lot of external content being created from external community creators or even educators on different platforms like Pluralsight, which is a platform that I make courses for in different technologies, or on Udemy or even YouTube courses. And then the other purpose is for customer success. So there's also the other side of higher DevEd, which is internal training, internal upskilling, either for employees or for your community. But I'm wondering, where do some of the other activities fall under if we're using this kind of school-based metaphor? So we've got high school, which might be grades 9 to 12, freshman through senior. These would be building proficiency in the product. So higher touch, more participation, things like workshops, sandboxes, which would be like playgrounds, virtual labs, diving into code samples, real world sample application type stuff, attending webinars, and then problem oriented content like how-tos. How do I solve a specific problem with this product? How do I deploy X product to Cloudflare? I would like a how-to on how to do that. And then there's sort of the middle school and elementary school type of thing. This is like developing foundational skills. So you can't build proficiency without the foundational skills. So this would be stuff like getting started and tutorials and docs. It could include live events and things of that nature. And then there's pre-K. This is like before you even get into your school, your product school. Where are people coming from? Well, they have to enter through marketing, through awareness building activities. So learning about your value proposition through your landing pages, through your product pages, through use cases, that's all about gaining and understanding. That's even before they even, get into the the public school system. Okay. Where does higher DevEd kind of fit in the developer journey? So this is taken straight from the DevRel book. And so we've got these different types of activities that are going on. And this is sort of how they fit. And you can sort of see that some of the like pre-K activities are earlier in the journey, and then we've got ones that come later in the journey. So that's sort of where they fit into the developer journey. Now, how do we see academies driving growth specifically? So one academy that I want to sort of showcase here is the Launch Darkly Academy. And you can kind of see some of the stuff that I just talked about. So right at the top, there's a big banner that says, take your learning to the next level with our new Gold Developer Certification. All right, so they are targeting the upskilling in the product, get your certification using Launch Darkly. Then they've got self-guided learning. They've got instructor-led workshops and instructor-led training. There's their certification. And then they've got some guided onboarding activities. And so that's for their customer success. So all those different things that I just talked about, that's how they're doing it. But this doesn't really explain the other side of this, which is how could it help product growth for people who are not aware of the product? And so this is where we are seeing examples and case studies from companies who have academies, but they are also turning into their top lead generators. And this comes from a case study done by AppSembler, where Chef is saying that since Learn Chef launched, it has been their top lead generator. But how could it generate leads if the people are not coming in with the awareness of Chef? So that is where something comes in, the two sides of marketing a product. So remember that I said that the secret that developers are looking for in the next year, what they need to learn, is all these different skills. So this should give you a hint. The two sides of marketing with academies, first is product education, and then there's technology education or technology marketing. So what they've found is that technology marketing within an academy is what actually generates the leads, because that's how people are coming in. So if someone is searching for an introduction to Git, they want to learn Git. Well, Chef has a course that is how to use Git, and then they tie it into their product. If you want to learn Ruby, why would you want to learn Ruby? Why would Chef have a Ruby course? Because Chef is built on top of Ruby. You have to learn Ruby in order to work with Chef. So they've created a course around it. They've created courses around Ruby resources and all sorts of stuff. If we actually go to their site, they've got Bash scripting, PowerShell, Introduction to DevOps. All of these are driving people who are not familiar with Chef into Chef's ecosystem, and they're getting more familiar with it, and it's building that trust and it's building that awareness. So that's the two sides of developer education, because normally we think of developer education from the product perspective, but now we can ask about the technology perspective. And what's the benefit there is that you don't have to wait, right? Because when you are doing product education, there's a requirement that you have to move up through those school levels. So you have to gain an understanding, you get your foundational skills, you build proficiency, and then finally you might be interested in upskilling in the product. With technology marketing, you can just skip all of that. People don't need to be experts in your product to benefit from the technology upskilling. So when is the right time to start thinking about it? Well, when you have the resources, the time is now, I would say, because you can get started right away. All right, so let's take one of the tech topics you want to learn. So I thought I saw a perfect one, which was get certificates in data science. Would you want to maybe share how could you maybe think of ways that the product that you're working on ties into data science? And we can do this together. So we'll take data science. And then do you want to introduce your product again so we get a better context?
Yeah, sure. Like, the product, like, I'm sort of a product manager for our developer console, right? So this is where the developers come and create projects and work with our technology. So for me, as a part of product management, and then I really like to gather as much as data, how to analyze the data, right? So what's the best practices doing that, right? So that's what I mean, I want to have a data-driven product, right? So I can have much better, clear features and epics that would be actually useful to our community of developers coming and working with us, right?
Okay.
So we don't
So
get a lot of feedback. Like we get if you have customers or partners, they give us good feedback, right? But I like to see the user behavior and the user experience through our console and our products, right? And like to hopefully one day build the tools that we can use, do this. Like again, we are a microservice driven company, right? And so it's a little bit difficult. Like we don't really like to use what is in the market. Sometimes we cannot, right? Because a lot of things that we do is at the edge. So how can we actually what are the best practices for to gather data and improve the product?
okay, so let's just to back up a minute. Can you remind us what your product does?
So this, if I'm talking about again our company, we are Mimic.
Yes.
We are an edge computing company. So what we do essentially is devices at the edge of the network, right? They can discover, connect, and communicate, right? And so all the connections and all the data, insights, and everything can happen at the edge. Everything can get analyzed at the edge.
Okay.
So you don't have to send everything to the cloud. As I mentioned, that basically we bring cloud server capabilities to the device level.
Perfect.
So yeah, so we will be applicable, our products for different vertical industries. For example, mining, where the machines that might not be connected to the cloud, right? But they still have coordination has to happen between them, right?
Yes.
Right. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so then this is a perfect sort of example. So when you're thinking about technology marketing and you as an individual want to learn about data science, and what's funny is that my dad did the same thing. He wants to learn about data science, so he's going to like Stanford online or MIT online, and he's taking these courses in data science. Now, if I want to understand how data science works with the edge, which is a perfect use case, then imagine if your company had a course that was about data at the edge, because it's not about the product, it's about the technology and how it integrates. That is an example of how to take something with that your product context, where it sits, and moving up a level and understanding what types of education could we create that people are looking for, that we could be the experts in, and how do we create something that's going to attract people and bring them into our ecosystem. So I'm kind of curious right now, how do you approach planning your content when you're thinking about doing like content marketing for the year or for the quarter, or how often do you do it? And anybody can share. I'm just curious what the process you go through is.
So if I may share.
Yeah.
Right now, because our product is still developing, or rather is still trying to figure out who uses our product, the planning happens very often, because we need to pivot very fast. We need to pivot very often. And I think it starts from who do we want to bring to the website or to the product. So in in marketing terms, we start with the persona. Even for like the content planning, right? So we start with the persona. Who are we trying to focus on? So for example, right now we're focusing on data tools, so like data scientists, data analysts, and even within that sort of group, let's say we decide to focus on really go like large funnel, really early data engineers, recent graduates, 1 year, 2 years into their work, who may or may not know all the technology, but are still learning. So in that sense, they are at an impressionable age to use or stick to a certain kind of technology or stick to a certain tool.
Yes.
So then in that sense, the way we plan the content is that one is introduce them to tools in their arena. So like if I'm talking about data analysts, I'm going to talk about what are the different tools for data visualization, what are the different tools for, let's say, data orchestration, and just increase more awareness about that. And then if you like, when we want to go a little deeper, then we make content about, okay, what are the different technologies involved behind it, or then how to deploy these, or like the engineering part of this. So it's a bit of both. So like have a balance of low-hanging fruits, easy to digest, quick content. At the same time, give them like the educational content, which will take them to the next, let's say, next level of not only using these tools, but like think about, okay, do you want to become a data engineer and maintain these tools or deploy these tools? And that's sort of a thought process. So to summarize, it's basically go for the persona, identify what are their pain points, identify what they want to learn, and then produce content, which is because, and again, like there's a lot of content that can be produced, but sort of produce content that is still digestible, that is still fun, let's say, and not like 45-minute long webinars or something.
Yeah. No, okay. So that's perfect, because what I was interested in knowing is, are you capturing what people want to learn in your personas? Like, do you have a section, or yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering, so because when I build personas for my clients, I always include it's almost an entire slide, which is on what exactly are the topics and things that people want to learn, and where are they going to learn it, where are they going to learn right now, and how do they want to learn it, so that we can understand what types of education we could build that would actually satisfy what they want. So I was curious to know, because you mentioned that you build content towards what they want to learn, and I'm wondering, how do you go about figuring that out? What do you include in your process to find that out?
So currently it's a very manual process in that sense, wherein I'm a part of, I don't want to say hundreds, but at least like multiples of tens of these communities. So especially because we're hosting open source tools, I'm a part of all of these open source Slack channels. And my day starts with getting up and opening my laptop and browsing through the questions channels. So, each one of these channels have like a specific questions, help wanted or whatever channels wherein they talk about questions that the community is getting. So sort of going through these questions, identifying some common problems. So like the same process that you would do when you want to create a FAQ page. Sort of, like browse through the channel, browse through what people are talking about, keep an eye on like the forums. And then there's of course like some sort of SEO involved. So like use Google keywords and keyword search in like to help around with it. But it's mainly browsing through communities, and then browsing through like the famous in the context, which is like these data influencers, if I might call them. So there are a lot of these micro influencers in the learning community as well. They have their own communities. So just going through their videos, looking at their comments, are they missing out on some part? Like, was there something that the community wanted and that has not been explained? So like identifying those gaps. So that's the process, and it's a tedious process, but I think at this point, that's what has been working for us. I would really like to know if there's an alternative, non-manual way of doing something like this.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I didn't hear you say that you talk to your community, but do you do that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
But yeah, the thing is, we as a company do not have our own community yet,
Mhm.
because again, like I said, our product is not open for everyone
Okay.
to use yet.
Okay.
But then in that sense, our community would be data engineers. So we do constantly talk to data engineers wherever we find them. But in the sense of community, we don't have one yet. And so again, access to them is also pretty sporadic in that sense.
Gotcha. Okay. So that gives me a good kind of sense of how you're approaching it. So one thing, let's see here. I'm going to try to, because there's only a few of you, we're going to just do this one-on-one. And I'm going to try to figure out for the top thing that you said that you want to learn, I'm going to try to figure out why you want to learn it. And this is just a quick practice called the 5 whys. But Shruti, since you were just speaking, I'm going to ask you, why do you want to learn to speak German?
Because I live in a German-speaking country. So that's I need to learn it to be able to have a conversation with people around me, have a conversation with neighbors, and just understand, live here.
And why do you want to have conversations with people around you?
Conversations are necessary for me. I mean, I'm assuming it's necessary for everyone, but specifically for me, that's one.
Why is it necessary for you personally?
Personally, for me, conversations or just talking is a way to communicate with people, create a community, feel a sense of belonging. So, yeah.
And what does the sense of belonging give you?
Currently, the sense of belonging would give me the feeling that this is home, and yeah, like a connection to the city, the connection to where I am, and reasons to not move.
Excellent. So what you just did is I asked you why you want to learn German, and the reason isn't because you want is not because you live in a German speaking country. It's deeper than that. It's because you want to feel at home. That's interesting. So
Exactly.
what this is getting at is, even though talking to your community might tell you what they want to learn, unless you go deeper, you're not going to understand the motivations for them to learn, because the motivations to learn exist at a higher abstraction. So this is sort of getting to the end and my point for a lot of this. If you are stuck trying to create content that's differentiated from your competitors, or if you feel like your content is boring and you want to make it more engaging, then you're going to need to go deeper into understanding your community and what their motivations are to learn. Because if you can do that, the definition of learning is a process that leads to change. If you are creating learning, you are helping people to change and transform personally and professionally, which is something that's a bit profound. If you can help developers upskill, if you help them learn about data science, or you help them learn about edge computing, it's not because they want to learn about edge computing, it's because they were never in technology, and upskilling makes them feel like they could help other people who didn't feel like they fit in technology. It's more profound than that. It builds affinity, and it builds trust with your brand, and it differentiates you from competitors because they don't have your community and product combination. There's no way that a competitor could copy your your learning and education if you are basing it on the human-centered experience of why people want to learn. So, surprise, developer education is marketing, and specifically it's actually brand marketing. And brand marketing, it's like Disney, it's like Nintendo. It's like if I asked you what Nintendo was, you'd probably know what it is. If I asked you what Disney was, you probably know what it is. It's very hard to quantify in hard metrics what the reach is for Disney or what the reach is for Nintendo. And those are funny examples because pretty much everybody knows about them. But when you are creating this type of technology marketing and education, it's going to be hard to quantify it, but you're going to be able to feel it. And that's sort of what the idea of brand marketing is. So just to conclude here quick, and then we can get into more deeper questions because we are out of time. But the reason I asked you at the very beginning, like, what was your most memorable food experience, was because I had just watched a movie on HBO. It's called The Menu, and it's kind of a funny. It's like a dark humor movie. So it's sort of like a thriller, but it's not really that scary. But one interesting thing is that the chef comes out and he's in this room of people that are gathered there to experience this like amazing this amazing course, this tasting course that he has. And he says, I just have one thing to ask you, and that's don't eat. And they're like, what do you mean? We're here to eat. And he says, I'm asking you not to eat. I'm asking you to taste. Because for him, it's all about the experience and creating that experience. So that's sort of what I do when I work with companies. I'm trying to create these memorable learning experiences, and hire DevEd is part of that. It's not the only thing that that I focus on, but what I want you to take away is that if you are able to create this process of change through education and academies and even the more like smaller forms of content like videos and articles and stuff like that, if you are focused on the motivations that people have to learn, then you're going to be able to create much more profound and effective content that resonates much better. But with that, I do want to allow you to pepper me with questions because I'm sure there are some. Any other questions or comments or yes. Okay. That's a great question. How do you balance the technology education with the product education? So um, I I was interested to see if someone would ask about this because when does it make sense to focus on the technology education versus product education? So we know, first of all, that the table stakes is developer documentation, because none of this makes any sense if people can't get through your docs and learn about your product. So up to a certain point, product documentation has to be the focus. So that's usually the focus for early stage and growth stage companies. Where technology education starts to come in is when you've got like a customer base and you're starting to get that awareness and you've got a pretty good handle on your documentation. And that's where if you're trying to do a new go-to-market effort, which is what is happening with my current client. They were focused on a niche or a certain class of developers, and now they want to reach another class of developers, a different niche. And so they're doing like a renewed go-to-market effort. That's when the technology marketing can come in handy, because now you've got a little bit of a team to be able to build it. And I didn't even talk about how to actually source and build this content. But that's where your community comes in, because at that point, hopefully you've got a community of people that are creating content around your product. And so the quality is going to vary across, that mix of external people creating content. And that's where, if you want to create more expert-led content, working with them to co-create that content and bring them into your marketing plan and bring them into your education strategy, that is going to help, because we know that developers trust other developers. And so by bringing in experts from the community, or even leveraging internal expertise, like one of the members of the call wants to get a data science certification. Once they have that data science certification, they will be an expert both at the product, and they will have this extra knowledge of data science that they could apply to creating a course. And so you've got this leverage internally, and you've got the leverage externally from your community. And the other thing too, upper funnel, top of funnel marketing, the bottom of funnel marketing. So this session was mostly focused on bottom of funnel marketing, when people get upskilled enough that they want to take in more courses. But you can do technology marketing at all the levels, and it doesn't have to look like courses. A really great example that I sometimes pull is microsites. Let's see, microfrontend.dev. So this is technology marketing, but it's developer education, and it has almost nothing to do with what the product is related. It's Microsoft Azure. But this is like top of funnel marketing, because this is getting people who are interested in the front end pattern of micro front ends, and it's creating a reference, a microsite, and it's open source. And it's attracting people who are interested in learning about this, but it's not a course. It's just a reference site. It's getting people upskilled in like, what is micro front end dev, and it's created by someone who is an expert and a subject matter expert in micro front ends, because they have worked at Azure for years and they've built micro front end applications. So they are a subject matter expert, and they're a developer, and they are trusted by other developers. And I saw this come through Twitter, and like the reactions were awesome. Like people were sharing it, and they were commenting on, oh, this is so helpful. Micro front ends are so confusing. Nobody understands micro front ends. Thank you for making this resource. And then if you go all the way sort of to the bottom, there's more resources. And there's all sorts of stuff here. And if you go to some of the roles here, it's much more like authentic. So I think that I do have other examples of like this type of thing, but that's sort of what comes to mind with like top of funnel versus bottom of funnel. Sorry, that was long, but was that helpful? I got a thumbs up. Excellent. Okay. Well, I don't want to take more of your time. If you do have questions, or you just want to chat, or you want to get some daily tips, I do talk more about learning experience and developer education and creating differentiated content through my mailing list. But otherwise, just reach out to me on Slack, and I would love to just learn more about how you're approaching developer education, and whether or not there are any needs you have related to getting this expert content for your product. I don't create the content myself. I just do workshops, and I help with getting that expertise sourced from either internal SMEs or your community, and putting it into a curriculum and putting it into education and stuff. So just reach out if you want to chat. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. This is really great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Looking forward to watch the recording.
Perfect. Yeah. You missed the ice breaking, but it's nice to see you.
Yeah. So see you later.
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.